a beautiful knife. This is a handmade knife from Patrick Rohrman from MT Knives that I bought from him. It's a chef's knife. Hard to get your hands on one of these though, but it's one of my favorite ways to cut things, especially after he's sharpened them. It's like razor sharp. Okay, so what I'm doing here, if people say something and I see it, great. If Tactical sees that I'm live and comes up, then maybe he'll see questions, but I just thought I would capture some video of preparing a leg of lamb because that's what I'm cooking for Christmas dinner, which is at 2 p.m. today. So it's not very hard to cook leg of lamb, but a lot of people overcomplicate it. And so I thought I would just do it. My studio kitchen is not set up like usually. Usually I have a table so I can face the camera. I set it up more in favor of you can see what I'm doing down here. And I may move the camera a little bit around. It's just, I need to redo how I set up my kitchen for live streaming in preparation of a new YouTube channel I'm setting up in January called Harvest Cooking. But we haven't done that yet because it's Christmas and today is all about spending time with people I love. I already had a fun morning in front of the wood stove. It was 6 degrees when I woke up, which is a tad cold in Tennessee, okay? So I got up and 6 degrees and my wood stove was like full of coals, right? And the coals were, let's see, let's get live chat up. Okay, so now if you chat something, I'll see. It was full of coals and I needed to be able to put in the next log, but then I couldn't. So, well, I mean, I could have, but I was like, I'm just going to let it burn down. So I let it burn down, and then my family had left a couple cool little presents. I'll show you what I got for Christmas. This is really cool. Merry Christmas, Greg. Dixie from Homemade Wanderlust would love this one. It's a water filter for backpacking so that when I go backpacking and mom isn't with me, I can filter water. So that's super exciting. I thought she was going to buy one for her and give me her old one, but I'm not complaining. So I have a really cool water filter. From a prepper's perspective, when you learn how to backpack, you fill in all sorts of gaps. Then I got a couple sets of PJs for my family. This one says, "Coffee, please." And this one's just, it matches my placemats, actually. And I also got some handmade bath bombs from my nieces, which I'm super excited about because I like taking baths, especially when it's 6 degrees outside. I didn't move to Tennessee to live in, northern climates, but we got it this year. So anyway, that's the deal. That was Christmas. And then it was a fun little morning. I gave Tactical his stocking, and we don't do a big Christmas here in the holler. It's just a little thing. So he got a stocking full of meat jerky because it doesn't eat candy, and then some Darn Tough socks and a thing of macadamia nuts, because macadamia nuts they're kind of expensive. And so I know he doesn't buy them for himself. So then this is what my kitchen really looks like. Okay, so you see we've got the pot I made sauerkraut and pork yesterday for Christmas dinner, and I cooked it on the stovetop. I've got back there a cast iron skillet I'm gonna re-season because it got left outside in my outdoor kitchen and the humidity got to it. We have a little pile for the compost, and then these potatoes are the last of the potatoes from my harvest, which I'll probably make into something at some point, but not today. Then my cast iron that I usually store in the oven is out of the oven. What I'm gonna do over Christmas, I believe, so you see where those knives are hanging? I'm gonna take all of this out and put in a pegboard and start hanging my cast iron there because I hate having to get it out of the oven. Anyway, you're here to see how we prepare leg of lamb though. And the water is running in the sink because my pipes will freeze if it doesn't. So There's some way to tighten this. Anyway, so this is the leg of lamb right here. And this comes from one of our sheep. I'm going to pull it out of its bag. And it is 4 pounds of meat. So it's going to cook for about 2 hours. And so the first thing I do when I prepare it is, even though this was at the butcher, there's a couple of like some stuff on it, like hair from the sheep. And this is probably leg of Henry, I would guess. So I'm just going to rinse it off. Make sure there's nothing left behind from the butcher. And then the next step's pretty important. This is what it was stored in. I'm gonna grab this one. I love these things. I wash them and reuse them, but they're great. So I'll just put it aside there and then inspect it. Make sure there's no other flotsam or jetsam on there. And then I will get a clean tea towel and pat it dry because I want it to be dry. For this purpose, I choose the red tea towel because if it gets like meat gook on it and it's white, you kind of never get that off again, even if you use a lot of bleach. And I don't use very much bleach because why? You know, like it's great for when you need to use it, but why set yourself up to need to use it more? And then you jump it into your gray water system and you got to maintain it. This is the cool thing about country living is I'm maintaining my own systems. So I know, I know what it takes to maintain it. So then I pat it dry. I want it nice and dry going into the oven. Both sides. I'm going to do that. Okay, I'm going to set that aside. Now, I've had this leg out for about 2 hours coming up to room temperature. This goes into laundry next. I've had it out coming up to room temperature because they say that's better, right? Well, there's also some research about if that really matters, if it comes to room temperature before you cook it or not, that directly conflicts with that. So I'm going to be doing some experiments over time just to see that. And of course, my sink always ends up with stuff. You're going to see like the real dirt here, guys. Like my sink ends up full of stuff when I cook, just like everybody's does, unless you have a fleet of people cleaning behind you. Okay. So for the leg of lamb, I start with an onion. This is my onion. And I cut it into rings. Can you see that? Oh, let's move this in. We'll move this in and then we'll tilt it down so you can actually see. There you go. You're going to get the, does that work? Yeah, that works. Okay. So I cut it into rings, right? And you got to get the nasty old peel off. I'm not worried about them being ring rings. Like, this is cooking for enjoying the meal, not just for looks, but I do want it to look pretty. So I slid it there to get that off. Now, the first ring I cut, right, it's not exactly a ring, but that's okay. What that does is it makes a flat part. Now my onion won't roll when I'm cutting rings. So then I cut some thin rings. I like to pull the knife towards me when I'm doing this. I like to not cut my fingers. Somebody told me once, if you curve your fingers like this, then you're less likely to put them under the knife and get it, right? What I find on an onion is I kind of got to hold it up. Okay, so now we're at the dangerous part of the onion, where it's sort of thick. So I just carefully, I'll cut that in half and have some thick ones for whatever. Okay, so put that aside. We're going to take this out. What I do for my leg of lamb is I make a bed of onion rings in the bottom now. And I pull them apart. Do that. Then I rinse my hands. Really nice to have that little soap dispenser right by my feet. Ooh, that water is cold today. See, now for drying my hands, I'm perfectly happy with a white tea towel. Totally happy with it. Next up, garlic. The garlic I'm going to cut into slivers. I'm going to do for this one, I'll do, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There can never be too much garlic. 6, 7. Okay. And then I cut the bottom part off. This is garlic I grew in my garden, and we've already replanted for next year. The onions are making me cry, guys. This is the garlic. Put it in the little hole there. Okay, so now I'm just going to peel it. There are lots of ways to peel garlic. One of the ways I learned when I was in Ashland, Oregon, was you take your knife and you do this, and it loosens the casing and the garlic comes right out. That works. If you have cured your garlic properly, it actually peels pretty easy without doing that. So they also make a really cool device that it looks like a rubber tube. I just peel it with my fingers. This is not me showing you tips and tricks. This is me showing you how I actually cook. See, this one actually needs a little smish. When you do that, make sure that your knife is flat and you're not putting your hand on the slicey bit, because you don't want to go to the ER on Christmas Day. But just, if you cure it well, the skin gets pretty thick. So the way you cure it is in a cool, dark place. I don't ever have a cool, dark place to cure it. So I cure it in a less cool, dark place, but I do have it in a dark place for a couple of weeks before, like, you don't even rinse it. Even though it comes out of the ground, you don't rinse it. Hopefully that didn't. Did that make the video glitch? Merry Christmas. Swim goggles when cutting onions. All right, Deborah, that's a great idea. Merry Christmas, Martinson family. I'm not seeing most of the comments when I'm looking down, but as I said, usually Tactical notices I'm live and he could help, but he was supposed to help this morning. But we woke up and it was 6 degrees and he's dealing with livestock, I think, right now, and making sure that we pour out their ice cubes and give them fresh water this morning. Last night was the last cold night. We thought we were over it going in, and we were only supposed to get down to 10, but we got down to 6. So now with the garlic, I cut this into slivers rather than dicing for the lamb. So I'm just going to do that into like thin little stripes. Hopefully you can see that. So this is an example of a sliver. Oop, the camera's that way. Whoop, right? So slivers. So this was a bigger clove, and I did that same thing I did with the onion, where I cut off a little bit, and then because it was kind of flopping around, I turned it on the flat part so that it doesn't move and I don't have to hold it and have my fingers dangerously close to the knife. This one I'm just cutting in half. Okay, we got a bunch of slivers of garlic. Now, I've found having, oh, I didn't see what that was. I've found having a really sharp knife helps prevent your eyes from tearing up. Oh, Tactical, yeah. You can just tell me what people say, Tactical, when you come up. That sound you hear in the background, guys, sorry, I'm low now. The sound you hear in the background is my oven coming up to temperature. Okay, so I've got that put to the side. Now we're gonna spice it with something, and what I'm gonna use is rosemary. Now this rosemary was not grown on my property because I just planted rosemary this year, and that means that we won't have it yet. I could go get a few sprigs, but they are frozen solid. So to use the dried rosemary, if you put it in like this, these sticks never really get soft enough. So I'm going to grind it up. I'll be right back. I'm going to go get my spice mill. Okay, so this is just an old coffee grinder that I had that I don't need anymore because I have a commercial grinder that I use at Hollow Roast. I grind up a bunch. So this is about a 1/4 cup of rosemary I'm using. If you're using fresh, you want to dice it up really finely, otherwise it ends up weird and chewy. And you take the leaves off the stems, but we'll show you that when we have fresh rosemary from the harvest. So this just goes on, boom. It does all the work for me. And then my trick is whoop, whoop, whoop. So now I have the rosemary. Ugh. Rosemary's nice and ground in there. Okay, Okay, then I'm going to get the flotsam and jetsam from the garlic out of my way and over to my pile of stuff that goes to the compost over here. Next thing I need is black pepper, because if I don't have black pepper, I have white pepper. It'll still work. So just grinding up some of that pepper. I'm doing this in advance of getting my hands yucky again. So I got some of that. Woo, don't breathe that. I'm gonna sneeze, guys. And then of course, salt. So this is a very simple recipe, salt. And a teaspoon. This way I don't have to touch the salt. So this is the salt. Boom. You guys can't see this stuff. I'm like, no, I'm not doing a very good job of putting this in the frame. There's the pepper. There's the rosemary. I don't want to touch any. Okay. So now it's time to score and deal with this leg. And for that, I have this smaller knife. It's sort of thin. I'm going to be scoring the lamb. Now, here's the thing. This is my pasture-raised leg of lamb. And when you read online directions, here, let's go up to my face for a second. When you read online directions, it tells you to trim the fat. There's no fat on this leg. In fact, I could wrap that in bacon and it'd be delicious. But that's not what we're doing today. So this they didn't make as much fat because I wasn't feeding them a bunch of crap, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut little slits and stuff the pieces of garlic in. And Tactical's walking in the door. So maybe you could run the camera when I do this. He's looking grumpy. Okay. So let me rinse my hands so I can move the camera. Okay. We'll get the camera back down here. So I'm going to score and stuff garlic on this is the top. This is the bottom. You can call it whatever you want. I call this part the bottom. So what I'm doing is cutting slits into the flesh. Ooh, that's a good one. And then I stuff garlic in there. See? So I'm stuffing into the slits the garlic. And if you see any comments up there, just let me know if I need to respond to them. Okay, don't get too close. They can't see what I'm doing. Sometimes when you get a leg of lamb, you won't have this knee and the shank there. They'll be cut off here. That's okay too. This one just happens to have both pieces. Some of the cuts I have both pieces and other ones don't. So this area here doesn't have a slit. Oh, it does have a slit. There we go. Nice slit there. And then I'm just trying to make it as even as possible. And then up in this area, I haven't slit yet either. So I'm gonna, oh, there's a slit. I lied. There's a slit. And then another slit here. One more here. And then we flip this leg. You know, some of them don't stick all the way in. That's okay. Flip this leg over. Do the same thing on the other side. Slit, 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 slit. Stuff. 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 Oh, 2 will fit in that one. That's pretty cool. Now, if you don't want to do what I'm doing right now, you don't have to. You can dice up the garlic and just rub it on the outside with the rub that we're going to do, and that's fine too. I think it's kind of cool when you cut into a leg of lamb to have little slices of garlic embedded in the meat, and that's why I do this. The theory is it infuses the flavor into the leg better. Unless we do 2 side-by-sides, we'll never know the answer to that question. Right. So in some of these areas here, it's just not thick enough to slit and put them in. Now you'll notice I have a few garlics left here. That's fine. I'm just going to put them on top when we're done. So next we're going to rub herbs on this. I'm going to rinse my hands for that because I need to touch stuff again. So what I want to start with is salt. I'm going to do, this is about a little over a teaspoon. I'm just going to sprinkle it over. Salt's very important in cooking. And then I'm going to take about half the pepper, sprinkle it over, right? Then I'm going to take about half the rosemary and sprinkle it over and just kind of pat it on. And then I'm flipping that onto the bed of onions. And I'll do the same thing again. Another teaspoon-ish of salt sprinkled over. If you have a smaller leg, you can adjust the salt. The rest of the pepper, sprinkle it over. Most of the meat is here. And then the rest of the rosemary. Okay. Get the rest off my hands, and then I'll take these few pieces of garlic that are left and just put it over the top. Isn't that beautiful? Now, because this is pasture raised, what I don't want is for the lamb to get dry. You know how I'm going to do that? You could put a cup of water in here. You could put a cup of broth in here. But it's Christmas. So the question I have, it's a very important question, and you guys can help me decide. Write in the comments, red or white. What do you think I should do? Because right now I don't have one open. Red or white? That's the question. Let me know what you think in the comments. Red or white?
I was going to say bourbon.
Okay. Can you watch the comments while I run on? Because I'm going to go get a bottle of wine. Red or white? Tactical's keeping track. Anybody answer yet?
Nope. Oh. Hey, right here says white.
White? Okay.
So far, and Rapier, send your email address. I'll send you a close-up picture.
Still no other answers?
Nope.
Okay, guys. A-Rapier is about to call the show. So I have this beautiful carnivore red. Oh, we got white, white, white. I got a white Pinot Grigio here. Looks like white one. Okay, so somebody said, I'm no cook, so I don't know. Here's the thing about this decision. Both of them would have been delicious. It doesn't matter, okay? A red wine with a lighter flavored meat may overpower the meat flavor. That's okay. You'll just taste more of the wine essences. It doesn't taste like wine when you use it. It just adds a bit of a tang and some depth to the flavor. Better than water. White does the same thing on lighter meats. It works really well. Like to mix it with capers. I don't have capers right now. And red would work for lamb really well. It works for beef stew really well. But white works for lamb really well too. So the whites have it. We will use white. Either one would have been fine though. And if you've read my cookbook, Cook With What You Have, we cook with what we have, right? So I've got this nice screw top bottle of Pinot Grigio. Now, I'm going to put about a cup in here. And because this is harvest cooking, right? I cook with what I have, and sometimes I know when it doesn't matter if the measurement is precise. I'm not going to pour it over the meat. I'm going to pour it around. So it's going to be about 8 ounces so that it's just wet on the bottom of this tray. And then I have a little left over for me. That's my Merry Christmas nip for the morning. And then next we're just going to cover this to keep the moisture in, and I'm putting it in the oven at 350 degrees. Okay, 350. Let me know if I need to respond to any comments, Tactical. So it's just covering that. One of the reasons I do like these quote-unquote disposable trays is they're the exact right size for tinfoil. And once they get used a lot, or I put them in the smoker, I totally can throw them away if I need to, but I use these. Like you can tell this one's been washed and rewashed and reused, and they're great. I do have proper like casserole dishes but you know, yeah. So I'm gonna pop this in the oven, and I'm gonna set a timer for 1 hour, and I'm gonna take the temperature. So if I want it rare, I want it at about 135 in the middle. If I want it to be a little more done, which I do for this one, I'll let the temperature go up a little higher. I'll probably bring it up to about 150 for this particular leg. And I'm doing that because it's a big leg, which means it's from one of my older rams, which means I want it to cook a little longer and be a little more tender. I have found if I go too rare on the older lambs, it's chewy. So we're gonna go a little longer on this one. Once it's at 150, I will take it out of the oven and let it rest for about half an hour. Bring it over to next door where we're having a sort of a holler neighbor gathering hosted by the Eversoles for Christmas. And I think we have some friends from the community coming, and serve it. They are also cooking. What are they cooking?
Oh.
Ham. They're cooking ham. So I decided to bring a leg because they've never had leg of lamb. And I thought this is something I'm good at cooking. And it's super easy. So you see, let's see, we are 26 minutes in, and this is ready to go in the oven. So that took 26 minutes of my time. Once I slice it on the other side, it's like 5 to 10 minutes. It's a super easy thing to cook, and it impresses people. So the only other thing I might do is make a little sauce out of blueberries and cranberries to pour over the top, which I think would be good. And that's just because it's Christmas. Usually I just serve it without sauce. And then I'm going to do a harvest root bake for a side dish for this. So I may be back online doing the harvest root bake. But for right now, we're just going to pop this in the oven. Merry Christmas, everybody. And thanks for joining my live stream. I hope you have the kind of day you want to have, whatever that is, whether it's time with family, time with a book, time on a kayak, or you're getting paid triple time today because you're working, and then you're going to have your time later. I hope you have a wonderful day, and thanks for joining us. Deborah says, I would be impressed with you serving this. I serve it at my workshop. We had leg of lamb at the Food Forest workshop. So what we're having at my spring workshop, tickets go on sale in January for that. We're going to have venison roasts that are, basically a lot like this, only it's venison. Anyway, we'll see you guys later. Merry Christmas.